in 15 markets. Ben, good to have you. Thanks for the time today.
Hello, thanks for having me.
The prospect of a bill, at least in the House, got a lot of people excited, but it was inevitably met with the response that where does it land in the Senate? Do you have expectations of this going anywhere?
Well, I think it's important we zoom out and see what's going on. There's a lot of misconception on what's happening with America versus Canada, the federal government versus the states. I think it's very clear change is coming to America. Americans want change. Opioids are killing people. Alcohol is killing people. How that's going to exactly happen at the federal level is pretty unclear. What is clear is the federal government's a trailing indicator. And on the ground in America, where U.S. operators have a moat around our business, there's a monstrous opportunity. So you mentioned Tilray in the opening. It's really irrelevant to what's happening in the U.S. right now with branded consumer products and the end of prohibition.
Right. Do you think it matters necessarily what federal law looks like? Do we have enough momentum, and are we at a tipping point on a state level where that can be enough?
What's happening at the state level has already tipped. So in 2021, you had Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Virginia all legalized, none of which day one has occurred. New Jersey, big state where you guys are very often, day one of prohibition ending is going to come in the next 60 or 90 days. We're very excited for that. What happens in D.C., again, is a little bit irrelevant. What's important for us in the country is how we set up this new industry, who's a participant, and where the new wealth is going to be created, and who takes part of that.
All right, so it is important. What's going to happen if, in fact, you finally do get what you've been hoping for years now in terms of legalization federally?
Well, I mean, monstrous upside optionality for the equity, right? It's difficult to buy U.S. operators, right? MSOS is the ETF that's easily accessible. So for investors, we think the equity prices go up effectively. But what's important is access to capital and people participating in the industry that have been hurt by the war on drugs. So this is the black and brown community that is in jail. There are still 40,000 people in jail. So as things progress, what we've been hoping for is to get the people out of jail, to your question. But there's a lot that has to happen. It's not an easy path.
So, Ben, it's Morgan. If we were to see decriminalization finally on the federal level, does that actually help to counter or even potentially stamp out the black market, which has continued to be a pretty formidable competitor, at least in certain states, because of the regulations and because of the taxes and because of the limitations on the legal market that we've seen?
Yeah, I think those two things are somewhat disconnected, right? You see the legal market at $25 billion on its way to 80 or 100 billion. Federal decriminalization, there's 40,000 people, like I mentioned. We think about 4,000 of those people are federal prisoners. That the president, in one motion could get them out of jail. That federal decriminalization, get him out of jail, whether it's that or another motion, that's what we're focused on. And then who gets to create new wealth in the new industry is important. That should happen at the state level. We're seeing some difficulty in Illinois, and hopefully New York, New Jersey, Connecticut will be the role model for what's going to happen going forward.
Hey, finally, Ben, separate from whatever may happen with law, how would you grade the industry in learning lessons, getting better efficiencies out of pricing and inventory and licensing, even with all the handcuffs around banking, for example? Are we getting to a point where they can, once it's legal in a state, run it better than they did before?
100%. But I think when you say the industry, I think there's massive misconception again on the industry. The Canadian cannabis markets and the LPs are not the U.S. branded cannabis operations that are thriving, that are hiring people. Listen, states need taxes, they need jobs, and we need to employ people and create a new economic stimulus through this industry. And guess what? Americans are in favor of it. More than 2/3 of the U.S. thinks recreational cannabis is a good thing. So there's plenty of opportunity. We think it's the next great American growth story because American consumers are choosing cannabis for well-being. It's pretty awesome to watch. We invite you to the store here. There's an on-prem consumption experience here, et cetera. But it's a big upside.